Ted is a friend of ours in the film industry. He wrote what they nicknamed the Happy Cow Bill.
Right.
And I just wanted to, first of all, thank you. How did you first find out about that?
From you. You and other employees had come and met with me and said, hey, why are we spending public dollars outside of California for a commercial that is talking about promoting Californian products?
Right.
And to me, that seemed wrong. And so I carried a bill that basically requires the state to use its public dollars in California if it's going to be a commercial to promote California. Unfortunately, the governor did not sign the bill.
But wasn't that particular bill, I thought I remember when I read about it that it moved through as quick as a bill could move.
It did. It had a lot of support, and the principle makes perfect sense. If you're going to use public dollars from California for a commercial that talks about California, then really it should be filmed and shot in California.
Right.
I mean, think how misleading it would be if we had let's say, a California Tourism Bureau commercial that said, hey, come here to California, we have these lovely beaches, and it turned out they were actually filming the beaches in New Zealand.
Right.
To me, that would be a principle that we shouldn't have.
I mean, I felt, even though the bill wasn't signed by the governor, it was still a win because it really brought attention to the fact that the California Dairy Board was spending the farmers' money, the California farmers' money, on an ad that was being produced out of state.
Correct. And it was misleading, and I think the mere fact we brought the bill and highlighted the issue, it really sent a message to the Dairy Board and also to all boards that are thinking of doing this. And my hope is that they don't repeat that in the future.
Right. I wanted people to know that are going to watch this that, that you're not like a trust fund kid, that and I've read about
I wish I was. I guess everyone wishes that, but yeah.
Yeah, I guess
So, no,
money
I'm
makes
not.
things a little bit easier, but that you actually emigrated from Taiwan.
So my parents, like
Yes.
many folks, came here to seek the American dream. They decided to go to Cleveland, Ohio first. That's where we settled, and we grew up basically in the basement of a person's house for the first several years. We would go to flea markets and sell gifts to make ends meet. You eventually opened one gift store in a shopping center, plaza, and then opened one gift store in a shopping mall. And my brother and I would help watch the store because, we were free labor. And then we eventually expanded to 6 stores. And
Wow.
So in my mind, my parents achieved the American dream.
Wow.
It is one reason that I decided to join the U.S. Air Force on active duty, because I believe I can never give back to America everything that this country's given to me. And it's one reason that later in life I decided to go into politics. I want to make sure that this dream remains open for people who want to work hard and succeed.
Oh, wow. So they're still in business today in Ohio?
They are. And I visit them,
They still
and
have
I see snow, something I don't get to see here in California.
So when did you move to California?
I came here for college, and then I eventually later came back because my last active duty station was at Los Angeles Air Force Base in El Segundo, California.
Oh, okay. So where we're at now with this this extension, and
Of the film production tax credit?
Yeah, of the tax credit. And I was talking to Ed Duffy the
Yes.
other day, and Ed told me that you kind of surprised them in a nice way, and you're co-authoring this bill.
In an appropriations committee,
Okay.
I said I wanted to co-author this bill because it has proven to work. The studies show that it brings in billions of dollars into the California economy. It has tight controls on it to make sure that when people take advantage of tax credit, it's going to the appropriate use, which is basically to help hire employees to work on film production as well as TV production. And I believe it's one of the areas where we can compete in. We're not going to succeed in California making socks. It's going to be those areas where we have a competitive advantage, such as entertainment. We have ports, we have high-tech, aerospace, biotech, agriculture. These are sort of areas that we need to focus on because we can do these things better or the same as other states and countries. We have ports, right? Well, Switzerland is never going to have deep water ports. It will never happen. So trade is something we can incentivize and something we can compete in the future. Same with the entertainment industry. It's hard to replicate Hollywood in North Dakota. And it shouldn't be that hard to keep their film production here. I mean, we basically invented cinema in California. It's something we're very good at doing. So my sense is if we could just spend some effort to try to help their businesses here stay here, that they in fact will do that.
What about, you have the one vote in the assembly that was against it from a politician in Orange County. And, he was quoted as saying, look, we can't, give the film industry incentives. The programs in these other states are terrible. We should just wait for those programs to implode. I mean, what do you say to that?
Well, with a 12% unemployment rate, we cannot wait. And my view is we have to aggressively compete against other states. I think there's sort of this view that, hey, we're California. People must want to come here and do business and stay here. And that may have worked 20, 30 years ago. It doesn't work now because capital is very liquid. It can go anywhere. People can just up and move entire film production sets to different states or countries. And we need to aggressively compete to make sure that those jobs stay in California, especially because there's all sorts of ripple effects from that, right? For every employee hired, they've got to eat in California, do their dry cleaning in California, get to and from work using transportation services. So it is a net benefit to keep film production within this state. My personal view is the LAEDC is a good organization. I don't believe they have a partisan slant. I think they try to be objective and fair. And they produced a report that showed that this tax credit worked. Part of it is because the tax credit has very tight controls, and you in fact can't claim any of the credit till after production is done. There are audits. And for that reason, the California Labor Federation, which to my knowledge has never supported a tax credit, is supporting this one. And so I just think the data really shows this tax credit does work. And I've seen no report that contradicts it.
This bill is in suspense, and I'd like you to explain that. And
Sure.
I'm told that happens often.
So,
Or that's not like, uh-oh.
So the way it works in the legislature is there are two kinds of bills. Bills that are keyed fiscal and those that are keyed non-fiscal. Non-fiscal bills never even go through Appropriations Committee. However, most bills are keyed fiscal, about 90% of the bills. So all those do go through Appropriations Committee. And of these 90% of the bills, any bill that basically has state costs of over about $150,000 will go into the Appropriations suspense file. And that's where we look at all the bills, how much money they're going to cost the state, and decide which bills will be let off the file to be voted on, and which ones will be held because it's too expensive. So that's how the suspense file works.
So why did this one go into suspense? Because it's...
I actually don't believe it should go to suspense because the way this tax credit works is, in fact, there is no effect on the state budget for at least 2 to 3 years because you don't get to claim their tax credit till after the fact. I mean, this bill basically says starting in 2012, we'll have 5 years extension of this tax credit. Well, for the tax credit, the company get it in 2012, they first have to do the filming and production, apply for it, get it approved, and then after all that is done, around 2013, 2014, after it's audited, then they will get the money. So there's really no state budget hit for about 2 to 3 years with this tax extension.
Right, and then I think we need to say in the same sentence that that this is creating a lot of tax revenue, which was proven in the LAEDC report
Correct.
to outweigh the expense. Is that correct? Am I correct?
That is absolutely right.
Okay.
And what the author of the bill said in appropriations is he said, look, for 5 years, for the initial tax credit of $100 million per year, $500 million, we got over $3 billion back. That's a pretty good bang for the buck.
Yeah.
And so hopefully this bill will leave appropriation suspense file, and I would love to be able to vote for it again.
So how does that happen? How do you get it out of suspense? Or how does it come out?
Right. So one way is to lobby the pro tem of the Senate,
Who's that?
Darrell Steinberg, which I have done. I have gone up to him and said we should pass this bill. It has a net positive benefit to the California economy. It's co-authored by a lot of your own senators. The reports show that this tax credit works. There's very tight controls in it, and I made my pitch. So hopefully it'll leave the suspense file.
Now, do things go into suspense in a good economy as well as a bad economy, or are they more apt to go into suspense in a bad economy?
No. So that's a good question. So about the same number of bills go into suspense. In a bad economy, less bills will leave suspense. That's what will happen because of the cumulative cost of all the bills added together. So if it leaves the suspense file, it's going to appear on the Senate floor. And that's where we need to get a majority of senators to vote for it. That would be 21 because we're 40 senators.
Okay.
So I have a good feeling that if it leaves a suspense file, it will be voted off the Senate floor.
And then when does that vote happen? And then where does it go after that?
So all bills have to be passed in either house of the state legislature by September 9th of this year. So that's the absolute drop dead deadline.
And then it goes to Governor Brown.
So the governor would then get the bill, and the governor will have several weeks to decide whether to sign it or to veto it.
Oh, wow. So,
And if the governor does nothing, it's interesting in California, if the governor doesn't take action on a bill, it automatically becomes law.
really?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Is there anything that you wanted to, add that would help?
Thanks for your advocacy in keeping film production here in California. I think it's
Yeah.
important.
I remember when you and I spoke on the phone for the first time, you had asked me,
Yeah.
what is a cinematographer? I think you had asked me that.
I did.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
And
now I know.
I thought that was great that you did that.
Yeah.
But I think it's good to let, because a lot of film people, we work 16, not much different than you guys do,
Right.
and we get very buried. And I want them to know that there are good politicians out there that
thank you.
are supporting us.
Thank you.
And the whole thing for me, why I started this, is that I was going to move to New Mexico.
Oh, wow.
And I was driving down the Coast Highway through the Palisades,
Right.
and I went, I'm not moving.
There's no water
There's
near
no
New
water
Mexico.
in New Mexico.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's exactly what I said.
All right. Good.
And I said, I'm not going to chase this business around the country.
Right.